I'm Mr. Beat, and we're talking about Florida, man. And wow, I have endorsed many candidates running for Congress that are running in the wonderful Sunshine State. They're all like some of them, not all of them, but some of them are here tonight. Believe it or not all of them, because two of them are running as independents in the general. All of the candidates tonight I'll be speaking with are running still. They have primary elections on Tuesday. So if you are watching this in Florida, you need to vote on Tuesday, or heck, vote tomorrow, vote early. These elections, I've said it many times before, I'll say it again, I don't even care. Your voice is louder in primary elections. There are less other voters voting on Tuesday. And so that means that you have more of an impact. And so please vote in your primaries. Before I bring everybody on, I just want to remind everyone listening, watching, all of these candidates have committed to uncapping the House, or that also means expanding the size of the U.S. House of Representatives. They've added it to their platforms. This is a new reform that doesn't get a lot of attention. One reason why I've decided to do this is to raise awareness about this issue. And I think you're going to find a pattern similar to the other live streams I've done where I've interviewed candidates I've endorsed running for Congress. They are all reform-minded. They are all for dramatic change to our federal government, because things have not only been bad during the Trump years, they've been bad for decades. All of these candidates will probably agree with me on that. So I'm going to bring all of that right now, and you can unmute your microphones. Wow. Yeah, we got a full house. All right. Well, full house is like 3 and 2, but regardless, we're going to go clockwise here and just have you introduce yourselves. Tell the audience what district you're running for in Florida. That's really important. And why you are running for the U.S. House of Representatives. We'll start with Alan. Go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Alan Spence, and I'm running for Congress because we have a congressman here that doesn't represent the people. He's more loyal to the president, and he does things that harm the people here. The people of Sarasota, Charlotte, and Lee County have been suffering for the past several years, where they have a representative who cares more about playing in congressional baseball games than actually representing them. And to me, the core of this comes down to representation. The maps are drawn in a way where he feels like he doesn't have to account to the people. And that needs to change. That's one of the main reasons why I support increasing the size of the House of Representatives, because it comes down to more representation. I have an economics degree, and what I'm focused on is something called the prosperity agenda. Can't see it here, but I have the prosperity agenda. That's my plan to lower costs and strengthen families. I also care deeply about Social Security. Unless Congress does something in 2032, benefits are going to be cut by 23%. What do I want to do? I want to get rid of the wage cap. If you make more than $185,000 a year, you can keep paying into Social Security. And number 3 is to make our government more representative of the people. And one of the major cornerstone of that is expanding the size of the House, so we have more representation in the House of Representatives. And that's me.
That's excellent. Yeah, just so folks know where your district is, District 17 is down there. Wait, is that the? Okay, I need to zoom in on this.
Yeah, there you go, right there. So it has the city of Sarasota, so western Sarasota County, all of Charlotte County, which the principal location centers are going to be Port Charlotte and Punta Gorda, and then in Lee County now we have the city of Fort Myers, North Fort Myers, Alva, Buckingham, as well.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for that. Next up, we got Marialana running for the 7th district, but everyone on here is just calling her Kinter. So I'm going to call you Kinter because that's easier. Go ahead.
Kinter works perfectly. As you can see, it's on my yard signs behind me. Marialana is long. I'm Marialana Kinter. I'm a former mechanic, nuclear reactor supervisor, and Navy veteran. And I'm challenging the incumbent Corey Mills, one of the most scandal-ridden MAGA congressmen that we have in office. And I'm running because we need honest integrity and accountability in office, and people who are going to fight unapologetically for working class priorities, for universal health care, for universal child care, to protect wild Florida, and to make sure that working families have a state where we can thrive, not just survive and struggle every single day. And we are the
Excellent.
big green block in the center of the state.
Oh yes, let's put that up here. Wait, what? How'd you describe this?
The big green one right in the center of the state.
Yeah.
Top part of the picture.
There you go. Okay, so yeah, again, I want to remind everyone, Tuesday is election day. It's a primary election. You need to vote. And so if you don't live in Florida, send this to someone who does live in Florida. All right, next up now we've got Ronnie here who I did not know about until literally today. They reached out and said they already support Uncapping the House. They're part of Take Back Congress, which caught my attention. So I haven't officially endorsed Ronnie here, but I welcomed them to join us anyway. So the heck with it. Introduce yourself, Ronnie.
Hey, thanks for having me. My name is Ronnie Murchinson-Rivera. I am running for Congress here in Florida 6th Congressional District. My incumbent right now is the horrible Randy Fine. We have a lot of work to do. His name says a lot. I have a lifelong background in public service, born and raised in New York City, worked in EMS for many years, elected to the school board by the parents up there and the District Education Council. Started a nonprofit. I'm a foster parent. I'm married. I have 5 children. But public had been my entire life. And then when I decided to move in Florida in 2017, I got into law enforcement, and I did that for almost a decade. So when I say public service has been my entire life, it has been my entire life. That's why one of my biggest platforms is healthcare, because during my career, I literally saw people life change because they can't afford healthcare. And I believe healthcare is a human right. And that's why I believe also Uncapping the House, because we can have proper representation that can see these things in our community that's happening and take those things to Washington and make a change. So my district is that big little slimy thing that's heavily gerrymandered right on top of that little green thing that Marialana Kinter just talked about. So I have 6 different counties that we wasn't gerrymandered in 2024 because there's nothing else they can do because they did it in 2018 and 2022.
I was going to say, I think there's a lot of dummy mandering happening in Florida. There's going to be a lot of surprises come November. That's what I'm saying. Great. Well, thank you for introducing yourself. Let's go down to Royal. And yeah, same thing. Go ahead, Royal.
All right. My name is Royal Webster. I'm a Army veteran. I'm currently a teacher and a union member. My district actually touches Ronnie's and Kinter's district. Kinter is to the northeast of me, and then Ronnie is to the north and east of my district. I'm in District 11. Why I'm running, the guy that was running, I share the last name with him, but I'm not related to him. Daniel Webster has been the longest elected official in Florida history. He first started in Tallahassee in 1980, and then in 2010 moved over to up to the Capitol in Washington, D.C. He's been in office for 46 years. He's retiring, so he's no longer going to be the incumbent. There's 6 Republicans running and 3 Democrats running. But my issues are affordability. I'm attacking it a different way than a lot of different other people are. I have a UBI hybrid, universal basic income hybrid that I call the RISE Act that you can look at my website for. It's electoralwebster.org. I support veterans and teachers, and education is really big. And I want to uncap not only the House, I want to uncap, like Alan, Social Security. And back to uncapping the House real quick. My district is 890,000 strong. When we set the limit of 435 back in 1929, districts were 280,000 people. And to say that one person can cover 890,000 people at the same way they could cover 280,000, that's just preposterous. So that's who I am.
I love how you're all sucking up to me and just like praising Uncapping the House without me like asking you. But thank you. Yeah, I appreciate all of you supporting this issue. And it looks like Alex is getting some love already here in the chat. Where was it at? Someone voted for you early yesterday, Alex, but go ahead and introduce yourself.
Awesome. Yeah. Hi there. I'm Alex Hazen. I'm running for U.S. Congress in Florida's 5th Congressional District. So I'm East Jacksonville, Jacks Beach area, St. Augustine, North St. Augustine area. I decided to run because I felt like I didn't feel represented with the candidates on the ballot and all across Florida. I wanted to see more young people who understood technology in Congress. I currently work as a healthcare simulation developer. I make video games for nurses, is what I say. BSN video games for them to learn how to interact with patients and save lives. And so big thing for me is tech regulation, making sure AI is a tool, not a replacement for people, smart and correct adjustments to regulations on social media so that it doesn't hurt people and helps people connect. So that's one of the big things. The other thing is my fiance and I, we want to be able to afford a house in our community, and that's really hard to do these days. And so I wanted to see more people who had skin in the game with regards to the affordability crisis, to be able to change it and actually say, like, if we don't get this done, then we're going to be affected. We need people who have skin in the game. So that's why I decided to run. I'm proud to say, before I even ran, I had Uncapping the House on my website as a position. I think that, especially my district, I'm like half of Jacksonville, half of St. Augustine, all of the beaches. I'm representing a lot of different cities, and Uncapping the House would allow, districts to be more representative of those types of cities as well. It could be that I'm just East Jacksonville and Jacks Beach instead of, St. Augustine as well, which love St. Augustine, St. John's people as well. So, but I do think it'd be more representative of the population, and representatives will be able to interact more with the specific community that they have.
Absolutely. Thank you. I'm excited to hear that you were passionate about this issue before I even brought it up to my viewers. So, and last but not least, we got Oliver, who is getting a lot of national attention here lately. You can speak about that if you want, but thank you for hopping on here. You were one of my earliest endorsements as well. You eagerly were like, sure, that sounds reasonable to me. And so I appreciate that. But yeah, introduce yourself to the viewers.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. And thank you so much, Mr. Beat, for organizing this. I'm Oliver Larkin. I'm a Democratic candidate running in Florida's 25th congressional district, which is the 75 miles of coastline in southern Palm Beach, Broward, and Miami-Dade County from Delray Beach down to Miami Beach. So we are, as I understand it, the least contiguous district in the state. And I know there are a lot of non-contiguous districts. So we've got an enormous stretch east of I-95 to cover after this redistricting that split our district into thirds. So running on Medicare for all, on $25 an hour, universal child care, paid family and medical leave, free college tuition, the Green New Deal. And I'm a Democratic socialist, so running in the primary against our self-described Ron DeSantis Democrat, assessed as Florida's least effective Democrat by the Nonpartisan Center for Effective Lawmaking, the first Democrat in Congress to join Elon Musk's Doge caucus. So pretty strong contrast here in the primary, but we've also got a toss-up race in the general election. So there's a whole slew of Republicans that are trying to out-MAGA each other right now, and looking forward to going forward into the general after Tuesday. But yeah, Uncapping the House, when we look at the Federalist Papers, what the founders were saying about having House districts of, I believe, 30 or 40,000 people apiece. We're all running to represent districts that have a greater population than the state of Wyoming, which has 2 United States senators in addition to a representative. So we need to restore some balance and some accountability. I really think that, expanding the size of the House is going to diminish the corrupting influence of money in politics, because when you've got these enormous districts to cover, what does it do? It really emphasizes having the corporate PAC money, the advertising, the fundraising, rather than the grassroots campaigning that I know we've all been working really hard to do. And yeah, because of my Democratic Socialist label running in a primary, I've been going on Fox News and giving them the business every time I go on. They keep having me back on. I can't believe they keep having me back on, but I think they probably think that they're going to make me look foolish and make Democrats look crazy. But when we're talking about universal health care and these universal economic policies, these are overwhelmingly popular with the American people. And if we had a representative Congress, then perhaps we could get some of these passed. So top priority is Uncapping the House. But thanks so much again, Mr. Beat, for having me on and having all of us on.
Oh, it's such a pleasure. And yeah, it is interesting how the DSA added it to their platform, Uncapping the House, and that was unexpected. I can't say I agree with them on everything, but heck yeah, I'm gonna like align with them on this. And so also I want to bring up that I interviewed your opponent in the Democratic primary at the DNC in 2024. He's a funny guy. He's funny, but I didn't know about all his where he stood on a lot of issues actually until just recently. But yeah, let's just keep going around the clock. Since we got so many here, if you don't mind keeping your answers fairly brief. But what I want to ask, I mean, this is something that comes up time and time again with every single voter. Everybody is freaking out about inflation on top of the high costs of childcare, college, healthcare, housing, which has been going on for, well, pretty much my entire life. So what is your number one solution to tackle the affordability crisis? Just think of one if you can. And we'll start with whoever wants to start. Raise your hand. Okay, Royal, just like the teacher. All right, go ahead, Royal.
Universal basic income, right? So I want to raise the floor. I want to be able to anybody making under $68,000, get them up as close to 68,000 by giving everyone a starting point of 16,000. Those aren't arbitrary numbers. The poverty level is 15,960, and the median income for the country is 68,000. So I want to give up to $16,000 as a starting point for everybody. It's not what a traditional universal basic income is, but it's my hybrid of it. And that's where I can attack affordability for different people for different reasons, because some people's it's healthcare, other people's it's housing, other people it's groceries, other people it's healthcare. So this gives it a blanket where you can use the money as you see fit.
I love it. Yeah, ambitious there. All right, Kinter, go ahead. Yeah.
Perfect. I agree with raising the minimum wage, starting first and foremost by holding corporations accountable and increasing the minimum wage to a minimum for large corporations like Walmart and Amazon, where we're providing them subsidies with American tax dollars because they refuse to pay a living wage. There is no world which our American tax dollars should be used to save these corporations that make off massive profits and still refuse. So we need to have a tiered approach on raising the minimum wage, starting with these mega corporations with these giant profit margins so small businesses can continue to thrive and our tax dollars can go towards the programs that other developed nations are already enjoying, like universal health care, paid maternity and paternity leave, and of course, universal child care and early education.
Right on. Yeah. All right. Alex, go ahead.
Awesome. Yeah, I agree with almost everything or similar to what has already been said. I know my big thing is tech regulation as well. And so one thing that I think is really important is we need to strengthen the FTC with regards to these corporations, making sure that they're not all monopolizing and price fixing. A big thing is Project Nessie, if anyone's ever heard of that. Amazon had an internal pricing algorithm that helped continue to match prices almost in the opposite way as people normally think about it. You know, you go to the store, you see a cheap option, you see online it's more expensive, you can price match for the lower one. They made algorithms that set it so that everything would be the same and higher with Amazon. And it cost consumers over $1 billion in excess profits in the last couple of years. And so there's a lot with regards to tech regulation as well that people aren't seeing that are helping artificially inflate costs slowly over time that we need to address.
Thank you, Alex. I think I saw Ronnie, then we'll go down after that. Go ahead, Ronnie.
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback off of Alex. I think the first priority we need to do on inflation is lowering the prices for families. So we got to go after the corporate price gouger, you know, breaking up that monopolies that he just mentioned, because I believe they control too much of the market. And then we got to make sure that they cannot use inflation as an excuse to keep on raising the prices while they keep, you know, making profits per year. So I agree with Alex 100%. That's my number one thing.
Great. And Alan?
Sure. My number one thing is, as I've talked to people in Sarasota and Charlotte County, one thing that's clear is the cost of property insurance is just out of control. These large property companies, they keep increasing their stock buyback. They keep increasing dividends to shareholders. They do this through a structure of subsidiaries at the state level, where they use these subsidiaries to push the profits up to the parent company. And then in the subsidiary, they cry poor to the state regulators, and they use that to justify premium increases year after year after year. So one of the things that I want to do is outlaw these state subsidiaries for large insurance companies and make it so if an insurance company writes policies in Kansas, they also write it in Florida. They need not cherry pick where they write policies, large insurance companies, because you get the cheapest price by spreading the risk out amongst as many people as possible. And after speaking to people during this campaign in Sarasota, it's definitely clear to me that we need some change when it comes to property insurance.
I love how you're all bringing up different things. It's great. And Oliver, what would you say for affordability? I mean, you already mentioned some.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what's been said already. One thing that sticks out in my mind is if we raise the minimum wage to $25 an hour, 86 million Americans, last I checked, earn less than $25 an hour. That's more than voted for either Donald Trump or Kamala Harris in 2024. So if we're looking for majoritarian positions, of course, this is a state that passed a $15 an hour minimum wage amendment in 2020 with over 60% of the vote. So I just want to piggyback off of what Kinter said there, but just with respect to giving a different answer than everyone else, I want to attack the affordable housing shortage in our state. We've got private equity and corporate landlords that are owning tens of thousands of affordable housing units. And when you look at your income and what your monthly outlay is in terms of your costs, your rent, your mortgage is the number one thing. It's more expensive than just about anything else in your budget. So if we're able to pass legislation like the Homes for All Act that can uncap the number of social housing units that can be municipally owned. We've had a limit on that since the Faircloth Amendment was passed and signed into law by President Clinton in the 1990s. That's why it's so expensive to build more affordable housing. It has to be routed through nonprofits. It cannot be municipally owned. If we do that, if we also pass a federal homeowners insurance guarantee to stabilize property insurance rates, and whether it's flooding and hurricanes in Florida or tornadoes in Kansas or drought and wildfire in the interior West, we're all dealing with the crisis of climate change. So if we do these things and build millions of new affordable homes, then we can really cut into not just having market rate housing, but having truly affordable housing for people. And I think that would really address a lot of the cost of living concerns that people are dealing with right now.
That's wonderful. Yes. Very pragmatic policies, actually. It seems like even some Republicans would be on board with a lot of what you all are saying. Andre is here. Shout out to Andre, who is a Floridian, great YouTuber. Subscribe to his channel. All right, we're going to shift issues to something that's really important to me, obviously, because I think that all reforms start with voting and representation reforms. And so with that in mind, you've already talked about affordability. Let's think about now, like, in addition to uncapping the House, what are other ways that we can reform representation in Congress, also with the presidency? Because obviously we've had a president that has way too much power. Congress is pretty weak. And the Supreme Court actually is even more powerful now than Congress. And that's just that's not what the founding fathers envisioned. I will tell you that. So think about, like, in terms of priorities for voter and representation reforms. Royal raised his hand first again. Let's go.
And I think everybody will be in agreement on this. Term limits.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Actually, raise your hand, everybody, if you're for term limits. Curious to. Okay. Yeah. So no. Go on. Then a little bit more. Why do you support term limits, Royal?
Because it wasn't made for Congress, for government elected positions to be a lifetime position. Yes, we have the Supreme Court, which I think needs term limits, also 20 years is my opinion. But when people were elected, they would serve out and they would be statesmen, and then they'd return after 2 or 3 terms back to their lives. That's not what it's become. And now we have people that are either dying or dead in office, and They can't move. They're too old. And that this is coming from the oldest person on this call, right? I believe senators should have 12 years. I believe congressmen should have 10 years. And I think the Supreme Court should be capped at 20.
And that does require a constitutional amendment, though. So just
Yes, it does.
It's an uphill battle. But let's just go to Alan next. We'll just go clockwise.
Sure.
Otherwise, what about you?
Yeah, absolutely. So the real common sense solution is automatic voter registration when people turn 18. One thing that I've done is during this, I've talked to different supervisors of elections in my district, and they all have access to a DHS database with everybody, and they know who's citizens and they know who's not. So I would support automatic voter registration, enroll people as non-party voters when they turn 18. That way they can go vote and they can take their ID to the polls and vote. Having this voter registration, it just adds another layer of trying to prevent people from vote. If they want to join a party after that, then they can register at that point. But I would support automatic voter registration to get more people to vote and get more people into politics. And again, they have a database. They know who's a citizen and they know who's not.
Yeah, and some states already have this. Notably, Oregon. I think Oregon's doing a lot of good things with how they run elections. But it is something that's not in the Constitution again, so that would be an uphill battle. Just something to think about. Sorry to be like a Debbie Downer on all this, but uncapping the House only requires a bill. That's right. Okay.
Correct.
Let's go to Kinter. What about something we haven't said yet, other than term limits or voter registration automatically?
The two that I always think of are removing the Electoral College and having it be a vote of the people instead of a vote of representatives. We've seen it in the history of the nation before, where the people's vote and the Electoral College vote don't match up eye to eye. And when we're choosing the highest levels of our nation's leadership, we need to ensure that it's representative of the people's will, because we are, if nothing else, a government of the people, as well as adding to our Supreme Court bench. Our Supreme Court bench hasn't changed since 1869. Don't quote me on that year, but it was definitely around 1860s, 1880s. Yet we increased our federal circuit courts last time in the 1980s to bring on the 11th Circuit. And as we increase our population, our judicial load is going to increase. And in order to have fair judicial rulings across the board at the highest levels, we need to increase the amount of Supreme Court members that we have as well.
That's something I was hoping that someone would bring that up, because I think more and more people are bringing that. What about anybody? Let's talk about the Senate a little bit. I've heard some radical people say they want to abolish the Senate, or maybe add one senator to every state. Anyone have opinions on Senate reform specifically?
I can jump in here. One of those radicals was the late Congressman John Dingell of Michigan, who is succeeded in Congress by his widow, the great Debbie Dingell. John Dingell, on his way out of Congress after serving 60 years, said that one solution to reforming Congress could be abolishing the Senate. So this is not necessarily just a policy prescription that has been advanced more recently by the National DSA platform. It's really come from many different parts of society and people with varying perspectives on how to make government work. But I think more proximately and of greater concern in how we can immediately reform Congress is DC statehood. This has never been a democracy for the people of Washington, D.C. We talk about no taxation without representation, and yet the people of Washington have one non-voting delegate in the House of Representatives and no representation in the United States Senate. This is our nation's capital, and we hear Republicans castigate Washington, D.C. as a city full of lobbyists and of politicians, when in reality, Washington, D.C., Chocolate City, was a refuge for escaped slaves fleeing the South and finding refuge behind Union lines. There's a rich political tradition and history in Washington, D.C., and they deserve statehood. And I think that was one of the real missed opportunities of the Biden administration and the trifecta that we had with the White House, the Senate, and the House of Representatives. So in addition to a lot of the many other great reforms that have already been mentioned here, like expanding the size of the Supreme Court, putting in term limits on Supreme Court justices, I would like to see a binding code of ethics. I agree with automatic voter registration. I think a great piece of legislation that was introduced that did not make it into law during the Biden years was H.R. 1, the For the People Act, that included many of these democratic reforms along with the John R. Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. I think if we did that and getting the money out of politics, that would address so many other issues that when it comes to just the imbalance of representation in Congress. So those would be some of my key priorities.
I love it. Yeah. I saw your cat run behind you in the stair up the stairs, by the way. They did not want to be on camera. Who have we not heard from? LK Alex and Ronnie. We'll get to Alex first, then Ronnie. Remember, we're talking about representation and voting reforms.
Yes. So, I mean, I agree with a lot of that's been said. Uncapping the House, term limits, corporate money out politics, judicial reform. I think one that is maybe not a short term, it's a long term, is proportional based representation. I really, there's some people who really like ranked choice voting, and some states have switched over to that. We're seeing this war with gerrymandering across many different states, Texas, Florida included, and it's a fight that is not going, like, it's just going back and forth, and it's really disenfranchising people's representation. At the end of the day, like, both the major two parties are historically unpopular, and we need to have people feel like they're represented by parties that are doing things that, or are representing them in the right way. It's a proportional based representation, a proportional based kind of voting system, instead of it just being winner take all, is something that I think that we can slowly culturally transition America over time. And it may not be a legislation right away, but I think there's some ways that we can slowly push it with different types of small legislation throughout time.
Yeah, so many of my viewers are for proportional representation with some kind of, now personally, I like star voting or maybe score voting or even approval voting. Actually, ranked choice voting, I'm not even that big of a fan of, but just something other than what we have now. First past the post sucks. Plurality voting sucks. Yeah, I think we all agree on that. Okay, go ahead, Ronnie. What's your biggest reform priority?
Well, they done said everything, but my biggest thing, I'm gonna go back to what Kinter said, is about expanding the Supreme Court, because non-people cannot really fully reflect the lives, the experience of 340 million Americans. We got people from different races and backgrounds and religions that we rely on just 9 people to decide the fate of the entire country. So I think we need a court with a broader representation, a more diverse life experience that will bring like a more perspective to the decisions that affect different people. So expanding it, different races, different cultures, and just giving them a voice on the highest court of the nation.
Yeah, and somebody mentioned this in the chat. You don't need a constitutional amendment to expand the size of the Supreme Court, so that's good. Correct. That's another more doable reform.
Can we talk about the Senate one more time, if you're okay?
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah. So my incumbent, Greg Stubbe, he's on a crusade with the Senate parliamentarian right now. He gets very frustrated with the parliamentarian, and he always wants to bypass the cloture rule so they don't have to get 60 votes to advance whatever it is that they're trying to do. And it's very important that that the Senate maintains its independence somewhat and doesn't bow to political pressure like this. But I know we're talking about abolishing the Senate, but at the same time, I feel like the Senate has really been a line in the sand that they haven't been able to get past, trying to pass a lot of their agenda right now.
Like the SAVE Act.
The Save America.
Yeah, which
and Matt, can I add one thing to what Oliver said?
Another law that's misnamed, like the Inflation Reduction Act. Anyway, yeah, go ahead, Roy.
52nd state to me would be Puerto Rico.
Oh yeah, and there's evidence now that apparently they want it. If they
2022 and 2024 they voted for it, but it's not binding because it has to be approved by Congress.
Correct. Yeah. Okay, we have about 23 minutes left. I wanted to do this like in an hour as quickly as possible. So I know we haven't brought up some issues that are still very important. You all have different career backgrounds, and I think that's something you could also kind of mention again because another trend for a lot of the candidates I've endorsed is that they're not lawyers. They're not consultants in DC. They're not part of the swamp. I've endorsed a lot of teachers, for example. And even if they are a lawyer, they're like, well, I'm a public defender. That's not a real lawyer. So stuff like that. So bring up your own career, and then maybe highlight a priority that we haven't brought up yet. That's maybe tangential to that. And we'll start with, we'll go counterclockwise this time. So we'll start with Oliver.
Yeah, so my background before running for office, I'm a campaign worker. I'm a union organizer. I've worked in digital communications for campaigns for over a decade. I also unionized my workplace with the News Guild Communication Workers of America back in 2018. And I think this is really central to the identity crisis that the Democratic Party is experiencing right now as it takes corporate PAC money and has members trading congressional stocks at the same time. This is the party that's traditionally been the party of labor and the party of the working class. And I want to see us return to that with a number of policies. A lot of the conversation around unionization at the federal level begins and ends with the PRO Act. And of course, the PRO Act is an excellent piece of legislation that would really empower unions to expand their membership, make it easier to form unions, take away bosses' rights to have these captive audience meetings where they spew out anti-union propaganda. But we need to go further than that. When I look at really what has brought about at the same time that we have anti-labor law in this country, and we just had a brutal legislative session in Tallahassee at the state level where they raised the union recertification limits. I want to see us go after the Railway Labor Act, the Taft-Hartley bill that disallowed for solidarity strikes or for secondary boycotts or any number of things that really should be enshrined in our Constitution with the First Amendment, the freedom of speech, freedom of protest. If we cannot organize and collectively exercise these rights, then are they really rights for all of us? And at the same time that we've seen this historic attack on labor rights, at the same time, unions have never been more popular. We've seen these wildcat teacher strikes in the past 10 years or so in Colorado and Kentucky and West Virginia. Florida, of course, had a statewide teacher strike in 1968 when the all-white and all-black teachers unions came together. They went on strike. 30,000 teachers walked out for weeks at a time. And then the state constitution was passed and they put a ban on public sector workers' right to strike. They saw teachers having way too much power, exercising their collective bargaining rights and taking radical labor action. And I think when we look at the popularity of new organizing movements like the Starbucks Workers United or the Amazon Labor Union, a lot of these new efforts that are going after the management of these multi-billion-dollar corporations, going after one of the wealthiest men in the world, and Jeff Bezos, who is working his workers to the bone. We see really burgeoning hope and opportunity for the labor movement, and looking at leaders like Sean Fain and this effort to align collective bargaining agreements to expire on May Day 2028 as we head into the 2028 presidential election. There's an enormous amount of leverage that unions and working class folks have. What I always say on the campaign trail is, regardless of who's in power in the House, in the Senate, in the White House, what the Supreme Court majority looks like, who's in power in Tallahassee, labor unions and collective bargaining is a lever of power that the working class has no matter who is in office, where we can extract material concessions to improve our lives with better health care, with higher wages. That's why I was on the picket line with 1199 SCIU workers outside of HCA, Florida Woodmont Hospital in Tamarack and Broward County. They're locked in bargaining with the largest for-profit hospital corporation in the United States. Of course, Rick Scott was president and CEO of Columbia HCA when they committed the largest Medicare fraud in U.S. history at the time, and he got a $300 million golden parachute and stock options for his trouble, and that launched his political career. So I really see labor unions as an opportunity for Democrats, but for working class folks more broadly, to start to chip away at this historic level of income and wealth inequality. And I think that's something that the Democratic Party should be ready to embrace.
You know your history, Oliver. Yeah, a lot of historical laws there. I got to ask this to everyone, though. This person from Florida just found out that you have closed primaries there. Can you change your voter registration the same day like you can here in Kansas?
The deadline was July 20th.
Oh, yeah. Of course. Making it as difficult as possible. Yeah.
I've got a hot take with that, too. I think we should have weighted closed primaries, which is where I think people, we have closed primaries already, but I think people always say closed or open primaries. I think, having people of the party have, maybe when they vote, it counts as 2, and people who aren't a part of the party count as 1. That way people get a say in both, but it doesn't skew a certain party one way or another and sabotages who the party wants to put up as a candidate. So it's closed primaries really keep people out from actually having choice. And I think there are some arguments of why it should be closed, but I think it needs to be something in between. And that might be a hot take.
Yeah, it is a bit. I'm not sure if that's what you wanted. Was there anything other reform you wanted to bring up real quick? That's
yeah. Well, I guess I'll answer the original question, which is like background, right? Working background, and then policy related.
Sure.
My background: simulation software developer. I make healthcare simulations, video games for BSN nursing students, and so my background's really heavy in tech. AI is really coming for people in my industry, but some things that I hadn't talked about, at least tonight, things like prediction markets, which need to be regulated as gambling. China just passed a relationship-related AI law to prevent young people or even adults being able to create these emotionally dependent relationships, almost like the movie Her with AI. So AI companies are supposed to restrict that. EU passed AI-related transparency laws, and they went into effect this past week, where AI-generated images have to have some sort of mark. That's, I think, a big thing. And I think a lot of people are really, bipartisanly agree that there needs to be some of these new requirements on AI. We're so far behind on some tech regulation, and it's bipartisan. I think last year they passed the deep fake pornography, and that was even AOC and Anna Paulina Luna, were both co-sponsors of the bill. We need to have some serious regulations on both, gambling, tech-related stuff that is impacting a lot of people today. And if we don't do it, we're gonna fall way behind.
There's a lot of bipartisan support, or I should say backlash against data centers, against flock cameras. Actually, the 4 issues that I say that are bipartisan right now are flock cameras, data centers, the Iran war, which less so, but still so, and the Epstein files. And I feel like if everybody runs in the general with those 4 things, you're in pretty good shape to win your election. But yeah, Royal, what's something we haven't brought up yet? Maybe education related, perhaps?
Actually, first of all, I want to thank Oliver, because I don't think, I may be wrong, I don't think there's a tougher union in Florida to be a part of than the teachers union. It gets beat up every single day. But you mentioned the Iran war. I was a military intelligence analyst for many years, and what we are doing in this war is beyond. It makes no sense to me. I understand that Iran is a sponsor of terrorism. It started with 1982 with Hezbollah, 1987 with Hamas, and then 1994 the Houthis. How do I know the years? Is because I worked against those terrorist organizations in military intelligence. However, bombing Iran, other than their nuclear sites, it's a waste of time. They will never surrender. They will never give up. They actually changed their entire military outlook based on a study they did from 2003 to 2005. They looked at how successful we were in Iraq and Afghanistan. And for 2 years, they studied us. So from 2005 to 2007, they changed their entire military structure, and they now have a mosaic military doctrine. And it's broken up into 31 different provinces, 31 different militaries. They know they can't win a war against us. Their entire objective is to draw the war out for as long as they can, survive until the American populace gets tired of it. And we've been tired of it already, and we're wasting $2 billion a year. The clown that's in the office right now has no idea what he's talking about. The Secretary of Defense doesn't know what he's doing. It is a shit show.
Yeah, yeah. I think many Americans would agree with that. Ronnie, something else we haven't brought up that's important to
Yeah,
you for your campaign?
yeah. My background is in public service and EMS and law enforcement. So for me, I'm always go back to healthcare. I saw some things that healthcare, having that universal background, uh, healthcare structure, I think is the right way to go. Medicare for all kind of structure. When I say healthcare, I mean like the whole person, physical health, mental health, dental, vision. There's a lot of things that the American people are struggling with here. And I think this one big ugly bill that's going to be fully enacted in 2027, if we don't stop it, it's going to hurt more people than they're already being hurt right now with the cuts that's being already affecting the American people. So I think mental health is one of the biggest things that we have to deal with. And we need to just get into Congress and make sure that we provide something that I believe is a right to people, so they can go get the medical care and stuff that they need.
Yeah, I think you probably, oops, sorry. Prescription drugs, I imagine, is something that you follow very closely, Ronnie, right? Like,
Yeah, I think there should be a cap on all those dependent medicines that people need to survive, insulin and all those other strong drugs that people need to live. And I mean, it sucks that people have things like cancer and they can't afford the medication that they need to survive because the government will help them out.
absolutely. All right, Kinter, what about you?
So my background, as I had alluded to earlier, I enlisted in the military at 17 as a mechanic and worked my way up to supervising nuclear reactor plants. And for this answer, I'm going to draw on both my professional background and my personal background. Growing up, my siblings and I spent time in the foster care system. And currently, right now in Congress, we do not have any members who have been involved personally in the foster care system, yet we have over 300,000 foster children in the United States. And children like me and my siblings, we survived into adulthood because people stood up and fought for free school lunch, for Medicaid, for food stamps. And I need to see people within our generation standing up and fighting for it too, because we're seeing an onslaught of attacks from the administration, from the highest levels, to cut these programs and defund them. But they're what allow children who are just born into a circumstance to survive into adulthood. And it's what allowed me and my siblings to all enlist into the military, except one of my sister who became an artist, and we love her still. And then going into my professional background as a nuclear reactor supervisor, we also have no members of Congress who are nuclear professionals at all or nuclear trained. And in order to gain energy independence and energy resiliency as a nation, we need people who have experience in nuclear power to guide the nation forward in creating regulation and policy. And in order to achieve carbon neutrality, energy resilience, and to alleviate the stressors on working families when it comes to private utilities, we need to be deploying nuclear power with small modular reactors nationwide and creating a strong energy grid for residential areas, for commercial areas, because our power demand is never going to decrease. And with the tensions in the Straits of Hormuz, I've personally been deployed there previously. It's not going to be alleviated until we are able to have our own energy source, and that makes us stronger negotiators at the table when it comes to our foreign diplomacy and policy as well. So the two big things I would like to see is strengthen in our social infrastructure for social programs, as well as strengthening our nuclear power.
Yeah, that's definitely a combination I did not expect. But shout out to Foster Village of Northeast Kansas. They're an organization that we have supported and raised money for. And it's kind of sad that they have to exist because government does not do the job. And so they have to fill the gap for these families. Last but not least, Alan, something we haven't mentioned yet that's an important reform to you.
Yeah, you're talking about background. So I have an economics degree. I work in finance. And what I've seen there is that there's really wealthy people. They found a cheat code to our tax code. So something called capital gains tax. So if you have an asset and you sell it for a profit, you pay a capital gains tax. And billionaires like Elon Musk and Peter Thiel, they found a cheat code. Instead of selling the stocks, so say you bought a stock and your cost basis was $10, and now it's $500 a share. A normal person would just sell the stock and pay the capital gains. What these guys do is they take a loan against their asset, and then they get the proceeds of the loan like they sold it. And sometimes they might actually be able to write off the interest on these loans. And then if they die, they pass it along to their heirs at a stepped up cost basis. And And there's never any capital gains taxes paid when they take these loans out. So what I want to do is put a 10 to 15% fee or tax, whatever you want to call it, on the actual loan to force the person who's getting the loan to make a decision. Do I sell the stock and pay capital gains, or I pay the fee and I take the loan? Because all of this we had during the Gilded Age, too much wealth was concentrated in too few people, and it really led to a lot of bad social outcomes. And that's something that we need to make sure these people are paying their share of taxes. There's too much talk on the earned income side of the tax equation and not on the unearned income side of the tax equation. And again, you have the Doge cuts to IRS, so a lot of this stuff doesn't even get enforced or audited now. But that's one of my solutions to raise revenue for the government, by making people pay their taxes when they found a way to cheat the system.
I love that. Yeah. And no more handouts for the wealthy. I call them the asset holders. They're not actually doing anything. They're not reinvesting that wealth. They're just sitting on it, hoarding it. Yeah, we got some confusion a little bit in the chat about where your districts are if you don't have it on your display name. So we have about 6 minutes. So just quickly, I'm going to ask you one last question here, which is what are the vibes in your district right now? How are you feeling about Tuesday? And just remind everyone you're about like where you're running, and shout out your website or where they can find more information about you. I guess we'll just go counterclockwise again here. So starting with Oliver.
Yeah, so our district, Florida's newly drawn 25th congressional district. This is the first time that there's been an election in this new seat. Carried over 50% of the old 23rd district. So down in southeast Florida on the Atlantic coast, from Delray Beach in the north, we've got Delray Beach, Boca Raton, Deerfield Beach, Pompano Beach, Lighthouse Point, Lauderdale by the Sea, Fort Lauderdale, Hollywood, Dania Beach, Hallandale Beach, Hollywood, Surfside, North Miami Beach, North Miami, Miami Beach, Bay Harbor, Ball Harbor Islands, all of the barrier islands on the coast. And this is a district which is having the highest growing concentration of billionaires in the country at the same time that we have a rising poverty rate. So we are really a manifestation of this growing chasm of income and wealth inequality. There was actually a fabulous video that More Perfect Union just did recently about all of the billionaires that are calling our district home. We have an incredibly diverse community. We've got residents from that have immigrated from Haiti, from Cuba, from Venezuela, from Colombia, from Brazil. We've got people who speak Creole, Spanish, Portuguese, Russian, all concentrated in this beautiful coastal district. Vibes going into Tuesday. I'll tell you this. I've never seen so many people, so many indivisible groups and organizers and activists, and of course our DSA chapters that are so mobilized. And I think this is something that gives me so much hope and optimism. We've seen right in our backyard in the last 8 months or so, Miami elected Eileen Higgins, the first Democratic mayor in the city of Miami in 25 years. Within our district, Boca Raton elected Andy Thompson, the first Democratic mayor in 30 years. Just to our north, Emily Gregory flipped HD 87, which includes Mar-a-Lago, from Republican to Democrat. These are seats that were won by Republicans by double digits in a lot of cases in 2024. So the vibes are really shifting. People are completely upset with what ICE is doing, these 287G agreements that have been enacted on Florida Atlantic University's campus in Boca Raton, or Florida International University's campus down in Miami-Dade. So people are upset with what ICE is doing. We've got a lot of retirees, a lot of seniors that are affected by the Doge cuts, what it's done to dismantle the capacity of the Social Security Administration, of the Veterans Administration, of Medicare and Medicaid services. So people are really looking for who's going to, really be able to motivate and inspire people in a district with about an even third of Republicans, Democrats, and independents. So I think the message of no corporate PAC money, of running on these bold universal economic programs, of abolishing ICE, and having an immigration system that prioritizes keeping our neighbors here. We've got an enormous concentration of the nearly half of Haitian TPS holders in this country, about half of them live in Florida, and many are concentrated right here in South Florida. So we want a sane immigration system that prioritizes keeping our neighbors here, keeping families together, lowering that cost of living. The Miami metropolitan area just surpassed New York City Metro as having a higher cost of living. And of course, we don't have New York City wages down here. We have 30 years of Republican rule in Tallahassee wages. So I think vibes are really about, getting this DeSantis Democrat out of here and seeing if we can actually have someone to stand by our party's values and really fight for these economic agendas that is going to make life better and help us achieve the American dream. So we've had a lot of older people voting early and voting by mail. So we got to get young people out to vote. That's really, through YouTube and your audience, Mr. Beat. I'm hoping that there are some young folks watching that can, bring 5 friends with you, take them out to the polls on Tuesday. Polls open at 7 a.m., close at 7 p.m., of course, as they do across the state. And just wishing everyone else the best of luck. Thanks again, Mr. Beat, for putting this together.
My pleasure. Yes. And I can't believe we hadn't even brought up ICE yet. That's the thing. One of the things I'm most passionate about. It's just devastating what they're doing. Alex, go ahead with your final thoughts, or remind everyone about your district and the vibes in your district.
Yeah, so I'm Florida 05, which is East Jacksonville, Jax Beach area. The beach is all the way down to St. Augustine, and I have the north half of St. Augustine. Vibes, pretty good. It's the first Democratic primary for our district since the redrawing in 2022. They also gerrymandered in 2022. They gerrymandered the north half that time, and now the south half of Florida second time around this past year. The vibes are really good. I think for our campaign, we've gotten a lot of people excited, especially in a heavy Republican district that there's all different types of Democrats running. And people are excited to see young, excited, progressive change on the ballot, which is great. And so for us, you can go to alexhazen.com, check out our platform, check out what we're talking about. We've also had a lot of really great conversations with Republicans here. I'm running really heavily on, it was brought up, very bipartisan ideas of AI regulation, tech regulation, Iran war, those types of things that really people are not happy about. So vibes are really good, and hoping Tuesday goes really well for us.
Me too. Royal, you're getting some love here in the chat lately. Looks like from multiple people, but go ahead. Final thoughts, Royal. Your
District 11. It did get redistricted. It is now south of Orlando, and it sweeps over to Disney World, and then it goes all the way up to the Villages. So it's a very eclectic district. They actually cut down the Republican. It was Republican 11.2, and now it's, I think, 10.1. So they hurt themselves. And there's a lot of Hispanics that came into the new redistricting, which me ayuda a mí porque yo soy cubano. Mi madre era cubana. My mom's Cuban, so it helps me when I knock on doors and I can speak to them in their native language. I've knocked on a lot of doors. I've shaken a lot of hands. I've been to a lot of different areas, not only in District 11, but I've gone to District 6, District 7, District 10, District 15, just to support the other candidates. 2 of them are on here with us. But I feel good about all of Florida with, if nothing else, turning it as much blue as we can. And as Ronnie will tell you, my favorite blue is royal blue.
Yeah, I love that. All right, Ronnie, go ahead.
Yeah, royal blue. Sorry, it's an inside joke. He says that every time. It gets me every time. My district didn't change much in the previous gerrymander they did because they can't do as much. This was a seat held by Ron DeSantis not too long ago. They redistricted in 2018, did it again in 2022. So really, they can't really change much because then they will, stretch themselves too thin. But my district is very unique. And that's what I love about this district. You can drive from one end to another, and you can see completely different communities. I mean, from the, Black families, Hispanic families, white families, rural communities, suburbs. This is a very unique district, and it needs somebody that can really represent them. People are struggling in different ways, different atmospheres, but we can get it done. I feel very good about the primaries coming up. We worked so hard getting to this point. We were actually one of the first campaigns in the state of Florida to collect every single petition needed to get on the ballot. And we were the first one to qualify that morning of qualification. And so I have to give thanks to all the people who's been behind me, my volunteers and support staff. We have over 60 dedicated people, and they just tired of change. I mean, the person who's currently representing us cannot represent us because he don't even live in our district. And so they can't feel what we're feeling. But we're really optimistic about Tuesday, and we believe we could take it all the way down to November.
Well, Ronnie, I think I'm going to endorse you. So yeah, let's make it official. You're awesome.
Appreciate it.
I'm glad you hopped on here. I'm glad I met you today. It's great. Okay.
And I'm sorry, I usually talk a little bit more, but I've been yelling and talking all day.
You all look exhausted, by the way. You're all losing your voice. Thank you for just grinding it out. I know you have to spend most of your time just begging for money, and it sucks. So just thank you for doing what you're doing, all of you. But yeah, Kinter. Final
Perfect.
thoughts.
Our district, it incorporates all of Seminole County in the southern half of Volusia. And as for the vibes, people here are tired. They're sick of it. They are ready for change. We are talking about one of the most scandal-ridden litany of scandals, litany of baggage, most extremist MAGA incumbents that we have in Congress right now, from an ethics investigation that's ongoing to an alleged DOJ investigation to a restraining order that was issued against him for a number of domestic violence scandals that have happened previously. Republicans, Democrats, and NPAs here, they are ready to see change across the board. And I'm proud to be the only working class candidate, the only working class Democrat, and the only one openly rejecting corporate foreign interest and defense and lobbyist and APAC money across the board. I'm proudly grassroots funded, and people are excited about that. I've been campaigning for over a year now, well over a year, doing mutual aid, luggage drives, foster clothes drives, even hygiene product drives. And when the Doge cuts happened, where I lost my job personally from Elon Musk, as well as the government shutdown, we held community dinners and community events to uplift people, and Republicans came, NPAs came, and Democrats. And across the board, it was that people are ready to have a Congress that works for the working class, which is not too much to ask. People want integrity and accountability. They're over the scandals, the celebrity politicians, and they just want somebody normal, somebody who is cut from the same cloth and understands the struggle, representing them in Congress and fighting for the things that we're talking about, for universal health care, for public education, for increasing the minimum wage and protecting rural Florida. And so come Tuesday, we'll be very excited to see the results because people here are energized, people here are turning out. And just one plug for everybody in the chat, no matter where you are in Florida, if you're not in these people's districts, only 15% of voters in Florida have turned out so far. Call your neighbor, call your friend, call that weirdo down the street, take him to the polls. We need to turn out. We have a say in the Florida that we want to see, and nationwide, the government we want to see. It's not a dream, and we need to make it happen. And the way we do that is by going down to the polls. Everyone who's voted, over 50% of the ballots that have been turned in are over 55 years old. So anybody watching here, if you want to see change, drive down to the polls August 18th and vote. Vote for change.
Yeah, well put. I love that. Also, I just got to put this on the screen. This is who's currently in the 6th district and the 7th district. Enough said. Enough said. They're going to lose the general. Okay. Let's not forget. We've got Alan. Go ahead.
Yep. So I'm going to represent Southwest Florida. So that's Sarasota, Charlotte, and Lee County. And when I talk to people, they're very upset. They're very angry that they have the incumbent. He's been in office since 2019. He's never had a town hall. They're upset that he refuses to speak to the people. Nobody understands why somebody goes to Washington, D.C. to represent the people and then refuses to speak with them. And one of the ways that I've been trying to earn people's votes by calling him out. He's a coward. He needs to have a town hall. He needs to speak to people that doesn't think like him. And, I've been cut off at Chamber of Commerce events. I've encountered him with the bullhorn. I am calling him out everywhere I go, whether it's in person or online. And I'm trying to pair that with my prosperity agenda, which is my plan to lower costs and to strengthen families, save Social Security, and make the government more representative. And we need to tell a story about why our policies make people better, whether it makes them better off in the pocketbook, or civil rights, whatever it is, and how their policies are actually harming people in America. So this is a very big election, and we do need everyone to come out and vote. We have to get rid of these politicians that think they're there to lord over us. They're there to represent us, and the people of Sarasota, they want to change. So we're really excited about Tuesday. We're ready to move to the next phase of the campaign, and we're going to run circles around this guy in the general election.
I love that. And I love the enthusiasm. None of you said your websites, so let's just say right now, it's in the description of this video. The websites are all there. Please look up all of these wonderful candidates, except for Ronnie. I haven't got yours in there, but I'll get yours in there very soon. Thank you all again for hopping on this live stream tonight. I know you're very busy. Get some rest tonight. Tomorrow, don't work too hard, and good luck on Tuesday.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Beat.
Thank you. Best of luck,
Thank you,
everyone.
everybody.
Bye.